The 5 most brutal kings in British history. You won't believe how they died. Boiling enemies alive in molten lead, ordering the massacre of thousands in a single afternoon. Prisoners forced to watch their wives' heads hacked off in front of cheering crowds. These aren't horror movie scenes. These are the real, documented acts of Britain's 5 most brutal kings. Some were so completely unhinged, you wonder how they ever stayed in power for long. We start with a king most modern Brits wouldn't even recognize. Show them his portrait today and they'd probably say, "Wait, isn't that the villain from the Robin Hood movies?" Yep, we're talking about King John number 5. King John O'Clan. He seized the throne in 1199 after his brother Richard the Lionheart died from a crossbow wound. John was such a catastrophic ruler that the barons eventually put a sword to his throat and forced him to sign Magna Carta in 1215. A document designed specifically to curb his tyranny and protect basic rights. Before that humiliation, he had already starved 22 hostages to death inside Windsor Castle, including innocent children as young as 11. He ordered his own nephew, Arthur of Brittany, to be blinded, after which the boy mysteriously disappeared forever, most likely murdered on John's orders. In 1212, when Welsh rebels captured one of his castles, John responded by hanging 28 Welsh boy hostages from the walls of Nottingham Castle. This man couldn't go a single year without committing fresh atrocities, constantly betraying allies and family alike. In his desperate bid to cling to power, his reign was marked by endless conspiracies, lost territories in France, and a complete breakdown of trust. John's cruelty wasn't just random violence. It was calculated terror designed to crush any opposition before it could grow. He alienated powerful nobles through heavy taxation and arbitrary seizures of land, pushing the kingdom toward civil war. His failures in France cost England vast territories and created lasting resentment that weakened the monarchy for decades. John finally died in 1216, supposedly from eating far too many peaches and drinking excessive ale, while the whole country was in open rebellion against him. Compared to what's coming, that was just a mild warm-up. Number 4. Edward I, Longshanks, Hammer of the Scots. Reign 1272 to 1307. This is the real monster behind the Braveheart villain. Edward invented hanging, drawing, and quartering, a method of execution so horrific they needed a new phrase for it. The sheer psychological terror of this punishment was meant to break not just the body but the spirit of entire populations, and serve as a public warning to anyone daring to defy royal authority. He first used it on Welsh Prince David ap Gruffydd in 1283, then inflicted the same fate on William Wallace in 1305. After dragging him through London's streets, in 1290 he expelled every Jew from England, the first European country to do so, and seized their property. His army slaughtered between 7,500 and 15,000 men, women and children in Burek in just 3 days in 1296. Many historians still rank it among medieval Britain's worst single atrocities. His campaigns of terror helped shape a more unified but blood-soaked England and Scotland border for centuries, leaving deep scars that influenced conflicts for hundreds of years afterward. Edward's iron-fisted rule expanded English control through sheer brutality, building massive castles across Wales and crushing any resistance with overwhelming force. He showed no mercy to rebels or civilians, turning entire regions into wastelands to secure his vision of a dominant England. His legal reforms, while important, were enforced with such savage violence that fear became the foundation of his governance. The sheer scale of his military operations and the cruelty he displayed set a terrifying precedent for future English kings. Number 3. Henry VIII. Everyone knows the 6 wives story. The reality is far bloodier. Henry executed more than 72,000 people across 38 years, roughly 1 execution every 5 hours. He dissolved over 800 monasteries between 1536 and 1541, throwing thousands of monks and nuns into poverty and starvation. His Treason Act of 1534 made it a capital crime to even think against the king, turning suspicion and whispers into deadly offenses that destroyed lives on mere rumors. Botched executions became common. Thomas Cromwell needed 3 swings of the axe, and 67-year-old Margaret Pole was chased around the scaffold like an animal before being hacked to death, dying in 1547, obese and rotting with ulcers. His final delirious words were reportedly monks, monks. As Gil finally caught him, Henry's paranoia and lust for absolute power transformed England forever, creating the Church of England while leaving rivers of blood in his wake. His decisions still echo in British law, religion, and politics today. The scale of his killings was unprecedented, targeting nobles, commoners, and clergy alike in a relentless purge that reshaped the social fabric of the nation and triggered widespread religious upheaval across Europe. His break with Rome not only enriched the crown, but also sparked decades of bitter conflict between Catholics and Protestants. Number 2. Richard III. The last Plantagenet king, after his 12-year-old nephew Edward V and 9-year-old brother vanished inside the Tower of London. Richard declared them illegitimate and seized the throne. Bones matching their ages were later found buried under stairs. As their uncle and legal protector, he had every motive, means, and opportunity. The disappearance of the princes in the Tower remains one of English history's darkest unsolved mysteries, fueling centuries of debate and suspicion. He also executed his brother Clarence Legence as drowned in a barrel of wine, and beheaded Lord Hastings without any trial. Richard lasted just 2 years before dying at Bosworth Field in 1485. The last English king killed in battle. His body was rediscovered in 2012 beneath a Leicester car park, confirming the twisted spine described by his enemies. Despite his short reign, his alleged crimes helped fuel centuries of Tudor propaganda that painted him as a hunchbacked monster, though some modern historians debate the full extent of his guilt, while acknowledging the ruthless ambition that defined his rise to power. Number 1. William the Conqueror. After victory at Hastings in 1066, the true horror came with the Harrying of the North. In 1069 to 1070, his army systematically burned villages, slaughtered people and livestock, destroyed food stores, and salted the earth. Between 100,000 and 150,000 died of starvation in one of the most devastating acts of medieval ethnic cleansing. The Domesday Book years later still described vast areas of Yorkshire as waste, completely uninhabited. Even a sympathetic Norman monk described bodies of men, women, and children eaten by wolves and dogs. This scorched earth policy was designed to break all resistance forever and secure Norman rule through fear, fundamentally changing the demographic and cultural landscape of northern England for generations. When William died in 1087, his swollen body burst in the coffin, spraying mourners with royal entrails, a grotesque end that many saw as divine justice for his savage cruelty. There you have it, the 5 most brutal kings Britain ever endured. They didn't just kill to hold power. They reshaped the entire nation through centuries of terror and bloodshed, leaving legacies written in fire, blood, and broken bodies. Their reigns remind us how fragile civilization can be when absolute power falls into the wrong hands, and how the echoes of their violence still shape British identity, laws, and collective memory even today. From medieval battlefields to modern historical debates, these monarchs continue to fascinate and horrify us in equal measure, serving as chilling reminders of unchecked authority and the high human cost of ambition. Click like if you want more dark royal history, subscribe for the next nightmare episode, and comment below. Who do you think was the absolute worst? Because, trust me, it only gets darker from here.